Welcome to Fulci Metal Jacket, where we curate and celebrate film on the outer fringes of the mainstream. Well, Deadly Eyes are indeed watching you, much like the private eyes of the beloved Hall & Oates song. Deadly Eyes is very loosely based on the 1974 novel The Rats by James Herbert. So the premise of this one is that we have a rat infestation in the subterranean sewers and tunnels of Toronto in Canada. Not New York, not Chicago. In this case, we do enjoy the rare treat of seeing Toronto play itself in an 80s film and not simply standing in for some other city, some city that never sleeps, or the Windy City, for example. Now, this rat infestation is no ordinary plague of vermin. These particular rodents have been chowing down on mountains of grain full of steroids. And now they're the size of Dachshunds or sausage dogs, whichever you care to call them. And they're threatening to eat their way through Toronto like a fat kid through a box of Timbits at Tim Hortons. This one's a largely forgotten 80s Nature Strikes Back movie and a largely forgotten Canadian horror movie, bit of Canucksploitation. And that's a little surprising given that it was adapted from a novel by one of the most popular horror authors of the 70s and 80s. Maybe that's because the author, James Herbert himself, was disappointed by the finished film and he described it as absolute rubbish. Now, I love James Herbert's Rats trilogy myself, especially Domain. I, for one, would love to see a film adaptation of Herbert's post-apocalyptic rat epic. It's a really bleak novel indeed, Domain. But I guess until then I'll have to settle for either this or Rat's Night of Terror. But I digress. I respectfully have to disagree with James Herbert on his opinion on this one. Much like Stephen King's The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's adaptation, the film Deadly Eyes and the novel The Rats are very different little beasts indeed. So Deadly Eyes is a gritty, grimy little film. It's absurd, trashy fun, and it has that early 80s Canadian horror charm and warmth and sentimentality that I always love. Scatman Crothers, who incidentally also appeared in the Shining movie, well, he steals the show as a cynical health department employee. And Scatman Crothers is always great because he is, after all, the Scatman. Beep, bop, 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 bop. Director Robert Klaus also made Bruce Lee's final film, Game of Death, which is also playing in a theatre under siege from rats in this movie, just for a nice little touch by the director. Deadly Eyes would make a great double bill with Chud or Alligator because, like this movie, they both have social commentary and themes about pharmaceuticals and environmental pollution and corruption and all that stuff. And if you're after something nice to enjoy with rats, The Rats or Deadly Eyes, probably a good food match, being a Toronto-made creature feature, would be some Tim Hortons. You might like to have some Timbits washed down with some black coffee in a -15 flurry of bad Toronto weather. Brings back all those warm and fuzzy Canadian feelings, if you know what I'm talking about. So I'll leave a link in the description to where you can see the trailer for this one, and hopefully I'll leave a link to the film itself. So that is Deadly Eyes, the adaptation of James Herbert's The Rats. And I'd also like to recommend James Herbert's Rats trilogy as well, because they're very cool and very worth your time. I enjoyed all those books immensely, and they were as entertaining as anything Stephen King's written. So there was The Rats, there was Lair, I believe, and then there was The Domain. So The Domain was probably my favourite. It had those post-apocalyptic themes and incredibly bleak, very depressing. And that one made this movie, Deadly Eyes, look like a bit of a tea party by comparison, but nevertheless, Deadly Eyes is quite gritty and grimy and shocking by itself, and as I say, a wonderful piece of Canadian exploitation and Canadian Nature Strikes Back cinema from the 80s. And as I said, it is a rarity in that it is set in Toronto rather than trying to pass Toronto off as New York or Chicago or somewhere else. And thanks again for joining me here on Fulci Metal Jacket. If you're returning, if it's your first time and you're enjoying what you're seeing, please like, share and subscribe. And I do hope to see you next time.